CEO apology kind of thing. Why would you put it onto YouTube? Why wouldn't you just put it on your own website?
Let me offer some perspective, if I could, on sort of both these questions, because they're sort of related. One is sort of a general bit of advice is, as you know, in the middle of a recall or crisis, that is not the time to start introduce yourself to social media, because you know, you have to earn respect over time and sort of understand the medium, and the medium has to understand you, and so that's not the time to do it and think you're going to be successful at it. Second is the you know, don't forget the importance of a compelling message. You know, we have a big problem in the United States right now beyond the economy, and that's the problem of trust, or the lack thereof. And there's some, you know, the Forrester research did a survey that found that corporate blogs rank at the bottom of the trust scale, with only 16% of online consumers who read them saying that they trust them. So I think the point, which segues to the second question, is, and I used to use this analogy all the time until the guy got convicted last week. I'm a big fan of the wall of sound approach to communication. Is that you do it in a symphonic way, and you do it across many media. If you have a CEO video, you put it on your website, but you look at, you know, whether you do YouTube, look at what makes sense. It's true to your culture. That makes sense to the stakeholder that you're trying to connect with, and basically use all the arrows that are available in your quiver. Mm-hmm. But the Domino's experience from this past week, I think, was not a recall. Are everybody familiar with what happened to Domino's?
No.
Yeah. Some people aren't.
Well, what happened was that a couple of employees at a Domino's franchise store somewhere in North Carolina made a video that sort of were mocking Domino's and sort of doing some crude things in the kitchen, which really brought into question the food quality and safety. And they posted it on YouTube, and it was Katrina for Domino's. I mean, it was just all over the place, and the major media picked it up right away. The district attorney in whatever little hamlet, North Carolina, decided to find out these two people and charge them with a crime. Domino's had a big problem on their hands, and they were slow to respond. It wasn't a recall issue, but it's really the same dynamics that were in play. You know, a recall is not just about affecting the recall; it's about protecting your reputation and being seen as doing well in affecting the recall. So it really gets down to look at all the, you know, it's not just one or the other. It's look at the whole universe of platform.
So, and I might add, just jumping off what Chris has just said, the most important and first thing you should do when you go back to your offices is to make sure that your employee policies have been updated beyond email to cover instant messaging, blogging, and social media. If they are not, have your folks in HR make sure they do so, because that was probably the worst and most egregious disaster from an employee awareness perspective. I worked at Enron for a while, and had social media been as prevalent then as it is today, the Enron debacle would never have happened, because there were pockets of employees who knew information around a company that were sharing information, you know, in hallways. That information now is being shared outside in these social networks like Facebook, elsewhere. That doesn't mean that employees are being, you know, undermining an organization. It means that they haven't been trained well. So I see two things happening right now. Employees have got access to a lot of power in terms of communication. Consumers have access to power in terms of communication, in terms of your brand. So, and at the same time, your brand, and this is you folks know this because you're feet on the street, your brand has to be inculcated in each employee's understanding. That has to be, they have to be able to live a brand. The other thing that happened at Enron was that, you know, the guys at the top were saying we're great at communicating, we're great at sharing, we're great at doing this stuff. Well, you know, they were being inauthentic and not transparent about that. They were hiding stuff. They were doing things that were not good. So brands can no longer have one thing going on the outside and another thing going on the inside, because employees will out that too. So this is, again, not to say anything about employees, except they need a little bit of awareness and they need a little bit of training. And those kinds of things are not difficult to do. They really aren't difficult to do. So those are the first two steps, because Chris is right. A recall is not the time to go out and start playing with social media. However, there are things you can do today to prepare for your brand being in a situation online where folks need to be able to react to those. Because as you train your employees as well, they will understand when they read bad things about your brand, and it will help them to understand how to handle that too. So the internal training is a very important thing. So great point.
Yeah.
And
And
sorry.
I think that's also a great piece to build on as well, and not just making sure you have a social media plan in place, but getting to that level of comfort, understanding the different tools you have in your tool bag, because in a recall, it isn't one or the other. You have 3 options to choose from if you're going to leverage social media in your favor, but you want to make sure you're using the most effective ones, you know your options are, and it can really be to your benefit. I mean, it's almost like you're in a stronger place having a recall now and understanding and getting feedback from the consumer than you were, 5 years ago. And the feedback loop must be obvious, and it really needs to be upfront. Don't hide it in the back of your website, in the contact us section that you have to go through 3 links to get to. You want to make sure that you are open to the feedback. Don't be afraid of it. This is the time when you need to be, bringing it down to the consumer level and interacting. And just to verify, definitely corporate websites, great place to put a video. It doesn't have to be on YouTube. Somehow they always end up there. But
Yeah.
it's definitely a great place to make sure if people are concerned about your product, if they go to your website, hopefully that's the very first search result for your brand, that they are going to have an immediate response from you to help to calm them down and understand what is going on and how they can make sure that they are safe.
In fact, if you put a corporate video on your website, assume it will be put on YouTube and parodied.
Yeah.
Yes.